Welcome to this Visualizing Your Digital Supply Chain with Mint training session. First, we're going to take a look at the constraints of the current supply chain business processes. Then the digitalization of business processes. Next, an overview of the TraceLink network. Then an overview of Mint, Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower. And then supply chain orchestrations with Mint. Let's look at the current supply chain business processes that you're likely familiar with. At a high level, some core supply chain business processes include orders, procurement, production and inventory management, transportation and logistics, and payment settlement. Each area involves several steps and workflows that companies have traditionally managed through manual efforts, diverse systems, and isolated information. Some of the key challenges we often see in these processes include manual processes and paper-based documentation, traceability issues, transparency issues, difficulties with compliance, and difficulties coping with global demand fluctuations and supply disruptions. These types of inefficiencies can have a significant impact on your company's agility, customer service, and overall supply chain performance. As we move through the course, we'll dive deeper into TraceLink's network along with TraceLink solutions that enable you to digitalize your supply chain to help address these limitations and transform your supply chain operations. So now we've reviewed the overall context of the current supply chain business processes. I'd like you to think about your own experiences and the specific pain points you encounter within your company's supply chain processes. Think about the key challenges, pain points, and limitations. Are there any communication gaps? Is the information you receive always up to date? How does the lack of real-time visibility impact your business? As we just discussed, the constraints of the current supply chain's business process pose significant challenges in terms of operational efficiency, compliance, and the ability to respond to evolving market dynamics. The solution to these problems lies in the digitalization of your supply chain. Digitalization is turning your paper-based manual processes into digital ones. We are already doing a lot of digital exchanges with supply chain partners, like electronic data interchange, EDI for example. The main problem is end-to-end visibility into all the processes across the supply chain and integration with partners. These are the key components that take us on the journey of end-to-end supply chain digitalization. Collective intelligence. Leverage real-time collective industry intelligence for better business decisions by proactively identifying and mitigating risks. End-to-end visibility. With end-to-end supply chain digitalization, you can improve visibility across the supply chain. End-to-end orchestration connects your end-to-end network, giving you critical data, collaboration, and intelligence you need to manage and optimize your supply chain process. The digital transformation enhances your ability to ensure regulatory compliance and maintain the integrity of your supply chain data. But what does TraceLink have to enable these components? The TraceLink network. TraceLink's network is the first step in the journey of your end-to-end supply chain digitalization. TraceLink's digital network platform and structure provide critical capabilities for pharmaceutical supply chain partners. Let's take a look at the differences between the traditional point-to-point model and TraceLink's network. A point-to-point model connects one trade partner to another trade partner via B2B connection. In this model, each company is responsible for establishing, mapping, and maintaining connection between its other trade partners. This model is time-consuming, requires multiple resources, and can include additional costs. Traditionally, with a point-to-point model, companies must map one-to-one for every trading partner. For example, here Company A wants to connect to a trade partner that only supports EPCIS 1.0. This means Company A must map EPCIS 1.0 for that connection. Then if they connect to another trade partner that only supports EPCIS 1.2, they must map EPCIS 1.2 to that other trade partner. They now need to maintain two mats with two different trade partners. This obviously is not a great model. The TraceLink network platform eliminates point-to-point integrations by enabling all customers and trading partners to integrate only once and then interoperate with anyone else on the network with a point-and-click configuration. The TraceLink integrate once, interoperate with everyone capability means companies can establish a single connection into the network using their preferred transaction type and format. This means you can integrate using any format you support, and your trade partners can integrate using any format that they support. Company A in this example needs to establish and maintain one connection to TraceLink, which can then connect to any other company on the network through that one connection, rather than multiple connections which are necessary in typical point-to-point systems. So to sum up, here are some of the big advantages of being on TraceLink's network. Integrated network. TraceLink supports integrated network capability. You integrate once and interoperate with everyone on the network. Integration with internal systems. TraceLink allows you to integrate Opus in your internal system. This enables you to send, receive transaction information from and in your internal systems. Transaction exchange. TraceLink's transaction exchange capability supports a wide range of standards like X12, IDOC, CSV, EDIFACT, and custom. And flexible formatting. TraceLink's canonical is a data structure used to normalize input and output data. All exchanges are transformed into a universal canonical file and then transformed again to any format that your trading partner would want. Let's now take a look at an overview of Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower, otherwise known as MINT. So far, we have learned that digitalizing the supply chain is important because of inefficient communication, out-of-date information, and lack of end-to-end visibility. It requires a holistic approach that encompasses an integrated network, efficient transaction exchange, flexible formatting, and seamless integration, which are all enabled by the TraceLink network. By leveraging these key components, you can achieve greater visibility, agility, and efficiency in your supply chain operations, just as we outlined when we started. So let's elaborate on how to solve these problems by taking a look at Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower, MINT. We already know that the network sets the stage for digitalizing the supply chain, but what else do we need? TraceLink's Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower solution, or MINT. MINT is a solution in TraceLink that provides the foundational capabilities required for supply chain participants to finally gain full visibility with a supply chain network through the exchange of interoperable commerce, inventory, logistics, and other supply chain data. You just maintain your single connection to TraceLink, and then you can exchange data with anyone who's on the network. The Mint UI provides you with a clear view of your supply chain processes, allowing you to track transactions, monitor inventory levels, and identify any issues in real time. It provides centralized transactional data and easy access to relevant information. Users can quickly retrieve, analyze, and handle data to support decision-making and strategic planning. Mint uses transforms to map the data between two different formats. It uses link actions to integrate between your systems, for example, ERP, QMS, etc., and Mint. Let's take a deeper look. Transforms make it possible for every customer and partner to work in whatever data format they need. The purpose of a transform is to map the data between some external format, for example, EDI X12, and TraceLink's standard canonical format, which is what our products read to display data like POs. There are two types of transforms, standard and custom. Standard transforms are built to mirror a standard transaction for a standard format, for example, invoice transaction for the X12 format. These transforms are available for all TraceLink customers out of the box. Standard transforms are deployed to the public catalog, STCM. Standard transforms may be used when the customer's transaction data does not have custom fields and is in a standard format TraceLink support. Custom transforms use a standard map as a base, but they are customized specifically for non-standard field customers may use. Custom transforms use a standard map as a base, but are customized specifically for non-standard fields customers may use. These transforms are available only for the customer they are deployed for. Custom transforms are deployed to the customer private catalog, CTCM. Customer transforms may be used when the customer's transaction data has custom fields that are not part of the standard format transaction. So how exactly does Mint integrate with your systems? TraceLink's link actions allow you to integrate between your system, for example ERP, QMS, etc., and Mint by providing a direct method for syncing transactional data, for example PO, ASN, etc., between systems. A link action will fetch the updated transactions from your system and the responses to your transactions from the partner system. In this way, you don't have to export your transactional documents to a PDF or a spreadsheet. Imagine you're sending a purchase order to your partner company. Once you create it in your internal system, Mint fetches the PO from the system with the help of a link action. This inbound PO is converted to TraceLink's canonical using a transform, then stored in Mint, making them visible in the UI. Then the PO in Mint is transformed into your supplier's format, for example iDocs, and sent using the file exchange process. Your partner receives the PO, gives it an acknowledgement in their system, and Mint fetches this PO acknowledgement. Mint converts the acknowledgement into your company's format and sends it back to you. This ensures that both you and your partner can access identical data within the Mint UI and integrated internal systems. So we talked about one transactional exchange, but how often in business do you have only one type of data to exchange? Never. So Mint provides supply chain orchestrations. We just looked at the example of two transactions, PO and PO acknowledgement. But what about the full set of transactions you need to go from procuring an item to paying? Let's orchestrate the common business transactions that happen between a buyer and a seller. A procure-to-pay P2P process involves the entire cycle of purchasing goods or services, from the initial requisition to the final payment to the supplier. First, the requisition is created, and it's approved internally. The buyer sends a PO, seller sends a PO acknowledgement and sends an ASN. Once the items are shipped, the seller sends an invoice. The buyer receives the inventory and the invoice and sends the remittance payment. You have visibility into these transactions in the Mint UI. Now let's expand the scope a bit. To fulfill the order, a manufacturer would need to coordinate with their 3PL on inventory balance and shipping schedules. So if we combine these two orchestrations, we have visibility from warehouse management all the way down to sales. Here are some of the transactions you can use to gain visibility through Mint. So think back to the beginning when we talked about challenges. Here's a reminder of some of the collective challenges you may have found. Looking at this list of orchestrations and transactions, we can think about what may help you with your challenges. So we've looked at the constraints of the current supply chain business processes, the digitalization of business processes, an overview of the TraceLink network, an overview of Mint, and supply chain orchestrations with Mint. Here are some key takeaways from the training today. On the left, we have the current supply chain challenges. On the right, the solution with Mint. If you have any follow-up questions regarding this training session, please feel free to email tracelinkuniversity@tracelink.com.